Okay, we are ready. I'll call this morning's meeting to order. I am looking for an approval of the agenda. I do have a couple additions. The item number 4, I would like to, because this vacancy was due to a probationary employee, I'd like to remove that, if that works.
Both of them, or?
Just the portion of the full-time juvenile counselor for the non-secure.
Okay.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Oh, wait a second. And then the second one is the addition of a request approval to fill a vacancy for maintenance foreman position.
Move to approve with the addition.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Whalen to approve and a second by Commissioner Haney to approve the agenda. Further discussion. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. And citizens to be heard. Are there any citizens wishing to speak on anything not previously advertised on the agenda? Any citizens to be heard? Seeing none, we will move into the approval of payment of bills and vouchers.
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Whalen.
Second.
And a second by Commissioner Campbell. Further discussion. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. Item number 2, Kurt Cannon, request to approve out-of-state travel.
Minutes.
Oh, I thought I did that, sorry. Psych. We have the August 7th minutes presented.
Move to approve.
We have a motion by Commissioner Gross to approve
Second.
and a second by Commissioner Wayland. Further discussion. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Now Kurt will take your request. Good morning.
Good morning. Great day,
It's always a great day.
Yes, it is.
Clay County.
How's it going?
It's going good.
Good.
I don't get up here very often, so I just wanted to, a couple things. The first one is out-of-state travel for our national training for 2019, June 1st through the 7th. It'll be in Cleveland, Ohio. So I'm requesting approval for that. That's for me and Jennifer
Okay.
for national training CEUs.
And I assume you're asking earlier to save on flights and stuff.
Yeah, yes.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Whalen to approve and a second by Commissioner Campbell. And Haney's going to put a stamp on it as well. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Second part is that enhancement operational grant. You probably got the triplicates this morning to sign, or you will get them afterwards. That's for that enhancement grant that we get annually.
Okay.
So that was just, I did the paperwork, and it's for the chair to,
That requires a board action, and I would move
Yes.
approval of the, that's an application for the grant?
yes.
Yeah, I would move approval of the application.
We have a motion by Commissioner Campbell to approve the grant agreement
Second.
and a second by Commissioner Campbell. Further discussion.
Second by Commissioner Whalen.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, Wayland. Sorry, I'm not. Coffee hasn't set in yet. Okay. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank
Good.
you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thanks for
that's what
everything.
you do. I guess I should call you.
Nice to see you again.
Good.
Yes. Hope to see you again.
Okay, item number 4 is the approval to fill the vacancy in the juvenile. Come on up, James.
How are we going through? You missed
What
Noreen.
is my problem today? Okay. So excited to have you come up here. I'm sorry. Noreen, request from Noreen Thomas to waive the penalties for interest and late payment. Good morning. And Michelle, are you also coming up? Good morning. My apologies.
Good morning.
All right, so Noreen, you presented us with a letter in regards to your father-in-law Wallace Thomas's property, correct?
Correct.
And you're looking to waive the penalties and interest for the late payment on the property. And are you prepared to pay that payment today? Or what's the agreement?
No, they paid it already.
Okay.
They were paid last, they paid them in February, but they were for last November's payments. And then when they realized that what had happened with his finances and stuff, they did the request to see if that it could be refunded.
Okay. Commissioner Campbell.
Madam Chair, after reviewing the letter from Noreen Thomas, it certainly falls right in line with the criteria that we have set forward with being able to have these penalties reversed, and therefore I would move that we approve the request.
Okay. We have a motion by Commissioner Campbell to approve the request and a second by Commissioner Wayland. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you, Noreen. Thanks, Michelle. Okay, James, now we're ready for you. I apologize for that. We'll go ahead and take your vacancy first, and then we'll move into your budget review.
All right, good morning, Madam Chair.
Good morning.
Commissioner. I'm here today to request a vacancy position. Elise Dallin accepted the secure supervisor position, that vacated her counseling position. The position's already covered in our 2018 budget, and there should be a savings between the wage she was making and what the new hire would be.
Okay. And I see you're also requesting the ability to backfill. Is that correct?
Any backfill that's necessary. yes.
Okay, all right. Questions?
Move to approve.
We have a motion by Commissioner Wayland to approve with backfill,
Second.
and a second by Commissioner Campbell. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right, thank you. So the next thing is your 2019 budget review.
Yes.
Commissioner, Madam Chair, the information will be on your budget packet, pages 76 and 77.
Okay.
I would like to start with the SECURE program portion of the budget.
Okay.
Some background of the SECURE program. It operates under a cooperative service agreement between 10 counties in west central Minnesota and Cass County, North Dakota. Up until the end of this year, we operated on a yearly bed purchase plan. Last year, all the member counties signed on for a 20-year contract to operate under a new cooperative service agreement. Part of that new cooperative service agreement kind of outlines how the counties are financially responsible for the facility, and it's based on a 2-year look back of their usage, so it's more reflective upon their usage and what they use. The 2-year look back for Clay County's usage on a 2-year look back was 34.5% of the secure usage of that facility. So according to the cooperative service agreement, Clay County would be responsible for 34.5% of the secure's overall operating budget. So that's where you'll see this year, the proposed 2019 budget is the first year that that's taking effect.
Okay.
You're going to see for our revenues, we're expecting $3,861,323. Of that comes for board and care from $1,123,889 for board and care of Clay County youth. $2.1 million comes from other member counties, and we're looking at $547,000 for non-member usage in 2019. We also have $3,000 on investments, interest on investments. We have national school lunch reimbursement of $60,000, and then we run as a pass-through for our sex offender programming. So the money that we receive on top of a per diem is $9,460, what we're projecting for that.
Okay. Any questions up until this point? Okay, thank you. Keep going.
All right, then I'll just go right into the expense portion of it. The expense portion, you're going to see an increase in salaries, regular salaries. This year is the first year that that the 4 hires that were hired to operate the Fargo facility show up, and then the 2 additional transition positions are in this. So that represents that increase. Going off that, then the budget package, you know, your Social Security, et cetera, all those go up in addition to that. We expect to see an increase a one-time increase in 2019 for your electricity and heating costs due to the construction project. Doors are going to be left open, lights are going to be left on, that are in and out. So we're going to work with Joe and construction engineers to make sure they button it up the best they can, but it's going to inevitably go up there. There's an increase in our other professional services, and that's just due to the cost of our nursing. We contract with public health, and the cost of nursing went up for our secure budget, so that's reflective on that. And this year we have a new principal and interest payment on the bond. That's new, and then part of the collaborative service agreement is the 5% overage. That's new this year too. That provides the facility some assurances, and also Clay County some assurances that in the event of unforeseen things that we won't have to go back to all the counties to request additional money. Is there any questions on the secure?
Madam Chair, maybe to just add a little bit of additional to James's description of this. The budget, the way we arrive at the revenues for Clay County and then also for the other member counties, what we do is we basically take all the expenditures and then we include the outside sources of revenue, and that gives us the dollar amount that we need to have to balance our budget. And that number then is the number that we take times the 34% for Clay County share, and then each member county has their percentage, and that's applied, and so that's how you come up with those. I just wanted to provide a little extra detail to that, how that is arrived at, because this is the first time we're doing it that way. In addition, James did mention that there was debt service and interest in 2019. There actually is not, right? Because the final payment on the old bond was in 2018.
There is interest. Right?
Yeah, a little bit of interest, but what the member counties suggested in the budget process is that we leave that in there for 2019 to also act as a cushion, because we do know that there will be a new bond payment in 2020. So we just figured for 2019 it would make sense to leave it in there. If it's not used, then those unused expenditures can help lower the 2020 payments as a possibility.
That's
so,
correct.
Okay, so I just wanted to clarify that. So.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, Commissioner. Does anybody else have any questions on the secure? Okay, I'll move into our non-secure budget then. Our non-secure budget is a Clay County program. We will take other county youth if space available, but primarily we operate for Clay County. If you look at the revenues, we're expecting 1.4 million in revenues. 586,000 we're projecting is coming from the board and care of Clay County youth. We're expecting 547,000 from non-Clay County youth. With that also, we have the sex offender program, our low-level sex offender program in our non-secure unit. Again, that creates some revenue of 9,000 more. National School Lunch Program, we participate in that. That'll bring us in 45,000. And then the interfund transfer is staying flat again this year at $298,000.
Further questions? Any other questions? Well, I think we've been pretty up to speed on the changes that Commissioner Campbell talked about, and I'm not seeing anything that really jumps out that's out of the ordinary. Anything else?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, there is a new request in the budget that we haven't talked about yet. I just want to make sure that we talked about that.
Okay.
Yeah, we do have a new request in the budget. Part of our last DOC inspection, one of the recommendations was that we have an organization chart change. And part of it was they were requesting an assistant director position in addition to some supervisor positions. I do have a visual aid that might help. Currently, for example, our secure detention supervisor supervises 24 full-time staff and up to 30 part-time staff. In addition, the secure supervisor has to manage the whole program and the various programs. And the programs in juvenile programming get pretty complex at times, so that position is relatively stretched. The Department of Corrections has concerns that we won't have proper oversight over staff. So they want to have more supervisory positions. Our proposal isn't to add any more staff for the 2 supervisor positions. We're looking at just moving a line change for just moving 2 positions from counseling positions to supervisor positions. And we aren't proposing to do that until December 1st of 2019, but the assistant director position we're requesting that could start January 1st.
Okay. Questions about the organization?
Is this revenue neutral?
It is in the 2019 budget. It's a new position for the assistant director position, but the 2019 budget.
And it'll go up after that then? Okay.
Question?
I'm wondering if Department of Corrections is interested in helping fund this, if they make any suggestions.
That's a good question.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, we did present the budget to our advisory board, which included these positions, and so they have preliminarily approved this budget, so I did want to pass that along.
And that goes back to Commissioner Haney's question. I think ultimately there will be a little bit of extra cost, but it's going to basically be due to the changing of the positions, not that we're having additional positions. So like the PDQ will be different, and where somebody falls on a line will be different. And it'll be helpful to know, James, we're not quite done with our budget process yet for 2019, so it might be good to know, what your forecast is for that in 19 in dollars, and also what you would anticipate it to be going beyond that. I think that would be helpful for us.
Yep, I can do that.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Madam Chair, one thing I would like to bring up in regards to the non-secure budget, with the expansion, initially we had talked about it being done in 15 to 18 months. We now know that that's not going to be the case. It's looking January 2020. It's probably as early as we'll be ready for that. And so just to put it on the board's radar is that the non-secure budget will be looking to hire additional staff at that point, which we anticipate will be revenue expenses will be covered by our additional bed space at that time. Right now, the anticipated number is about 7 additional full-time staff, and so we had anticipated initially putting part of that in the budget starting in December, but because it doesn't look like we're going to get in, it didn't show up. But I did want to put that on the board's radar that the additional positions would be being requested later once the expansion is completed.
Commissioner Campbell?
Just a reminder to that, though, and that is true, but the reminder to that, though, is that We also looked at a cost shift in dollars from other areas.
Absolutely.
That is being spent in different ways now would be spent here instead. So again, even though you're talking about additional staff, we're still looking at it as being cost
A shift,
neutral.
yeah.
So it's important to
Thank you.
get that out there.
Okay. Anything else? No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our item number 6 is a request approval to fill the upcoming vacancy in the full-time office associate. Steve Lansome.
Sure.
Good morning.
Commissioners.
Oh.
I'm here this morning to start out with a request to approve the hiring of a full-time employee to replace a retirement of Cindy Sunday, one of our office associates. Looking at her wages difference, I figured out there'd be about a $3,900 savings from
Before.
where she is at the starting employee. So, any questions?
Move approval.
A motion by Commissioner Campbell to approve.
Second.
And a second by Commissioner Gross. Further discussion. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Thank you.
Motion passes, thank you. All right, the next item is the budget review for the law enforcement department. You have Sheriff Berquist is here, Steve Lansome, Lieutenant Green, you have Julie Savat, our jail administrator as well. Come on up. Good morning. Sheriff Berquist, final budget review.
It's final and my first.
Well, James is first too, we'll make it work.
Well, I think I'll start off with the law enforcement side of things. We try to maintain a pretty flat budget for law enforcement. And
This is page 25 on our packets. I apologize.
oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. On the revenue side, I think the only change from last year was some mandated training that we're expecting some more revenue from the state. This post has mandated 3 more trainings that the deputies have to go through to maintain their license. It's implicit bias training, so a couple others. Anticipating about $8,000 revenue increase. That's line item, it's 203-5276, and I'm not sure if that line item is on here. It would be above the police training reimbursement.
It is, yes.
It is.
Okay. That's the only revenue increase that we could see this year, for next year. And if I can move into the expenditures, we try to keep it as flat as possible. But due to the environment we're at with retirement of our command staff,
Yeah.
I mean, the domino effect that we're gonna create is hiring lieutenants and promoting sergeants and the training involved in doing that. We try to get these employees to some command staff training. And with the anticipated retirement of Lieutenant Green, we have a lot of emergency management training that person will have to fill. And if we go through the line of training, I increased it about $3,000 due to that. It also goes in touch with the uniforms with the new hirees when we replace these retirements and backfill these positions that we haven't yet, such as previous Chief Deputy Matt Searles spot at the Sheriff's Office. So we're holding off on that until the election is done and we can find out where the dominoes fall.
Right.
For that. And the last increase is a little bit of the fuel, due to the increase of what fuel prices have been and what we use in the squads.
Yep.
So,
Well, we definitely appreciate you guys have really been creative in applying for grants and taking good advantage of grant funding for a lot of different areas, but specifically in that training area. I know that you've been able to secure some grants to help pay for that, so we appreciate that. Commissioner,
next-
just a moment,
If I
please,
can't,
Commissioner.
question for Lori, we got you had told me yesterday about some good news on our health insurance. I see here, had you broken that down? Because I see that it's showing a 12% for.
Right, so last year we did not break it down, so right now it's showing that big increase. And then I'll be moving, right now it's sitting in our budget as a lump sum.
Okay.
But when I get the final numbers for the cafeteria plan, then I'll split that out, so next year that increase will only be a 2%,
But he's,
but also.
in Stephen's budget right now, he's showing a 12% increase still.
Right.
So that's.
When we budgeted for 18, we were using the 17 numbers. And then, so now they're using the 18 numbers, and that was that 14% increase, so.
Okay. So that number what he's showing now will come down.
That'll go up a little bit.
Will it go up a little bit?
Just a little bit, because I'm gonna spread the 2%, so we'll get that double increase this year. But then moving forward,
Okay.
we won't see that big jump.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Looking at the dispatch budget, that actually has gone down overall this year. I'm not sure what page that is on here.
That's on 31, our 31.
Overall dispatch budget from 18 to 19 has actually gone down about $40,000 for the entire budget for Red River Regional Dispatch Center. So that has not increased the county's share at all on what it was from last year. So that remained pretty flat. It actually went down a little bit totally.
Okay.
You will be aware of that. Any questions?
Yeah, Motor Brian.
Not when it goes down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's the work of the dispatch center and the director, Mary Philippi. It's nice to see. I think that's a first for dispatch center.
Brian?
We can move on to Brian's.
Oh, pretty simple. Basically, it's stayed the same for the last 3 years. Only increased a little bit on the Social Security and Medicare and all that good stuff. But that's basically it. Grant, state grant, just came this week actually for this year, 2018, and it's pretty much going to stay the same, a little bit over 33,000. I just want to, won't be in this position next year, but that covers quite a bit of my wages, that 33,000. I don't know how long that's going to be there. I really don't. The way the federal government, it's a federal grant, but it comes to the state, then it comes through us. A lot of counties in Minnesota are going away from it because it mandates a lot of things that you have to do, of course, and some counties feel like well, it's really not worth it. So just want to let you know, maybe next year or year after it won't be there anymore. So
We should keep that on the forefront, Darren, especially as we talk about transition plans with different departments. That's definitely one that I don't want us to drop there. I'd like to have that conversation continue. Thanks for bringing that up. Any other questions? Right, Julie?
Well, we do have a few changes in the correctional budget.
We do?
We do, but, we had this planned ahead of time, so
Yeah.
I don't think there should be any real shock for anyone. Starting out with revenues, we did estimate that we would have some revenue for boarding prisoners from other facilities in the state once we open up our new facility. However, that plan may have to wait until next year. Since our facility won't open until the end of October, the likelihood of us being able to take in prisoners from out of state or out of the county, other counties, has dropped dramatically. So I'm not sure that we'll see that revenue of $200,000. Okay, I'll move on to the expenditures. We're actually able to cut some things out of our budget this year and for 2019. A couple things we were able to do is we did end the STS program, and we took those wages and we put it into our regular salaries to help offset some of our additional staff that we had to hire this year. The STS program can continue in our jail. It'll just be overseen by our work detail officer.
Good.
So
You said there's going to be, we're going to discontinue it, or how's it going to be transferred?
We'll no longer be paying the state that wage for an
Okay.
STS crew leader, but the program itself will continue in the jail, and it'll be operated by our existing work detail officer. You can have both programs, and we can still benefit the community with all the programming, or all the services we have been currently
But
offering.
as I've been going to township meetings, that's one question that's been coming up. Because I think they're under the impression we are discontinuing that STS program. So,
No, we still will have work detail, and they do
and
the
it's going to be the same
things.
level that we had it before?
I believe it will be, yes.
I've also had those concerns brought forward to me that the perception is that the amount of work that's being done will not be.
Well, you know, STS, currently, they did a lot of work outside of their county, so that won't continue. So our work detail will be able to concentrate in Clay County on those projects. So with the current staffing, you know, right now we have to pull our work detail many days because we don't have enough staffing for court and other routine duties. But we have now, the new facility created enough field for the court position that we don't need to pull our work detail officer as often. So he will be out in the community more than he was he currently has been for the last like 5 years. So I think we can keep up our services.
Okay. Janelle's here, and I think there's a little bit of a difference of thought as to how much they're in Clay versus outside of Clay. And so, I mean, it just seems like there's a few wrinkles in terms of what's being perceived for the services, and I want to make sure it's my intention that we're not losing the amount of service that, I get that we're kind of transferring and moving kind of where that's at, but you know, the Clay County Fairgrounds look amazing because of what those guys do, you know, Barnesville, Potato Days and Loco Days. I mean, they really do offer a service that a lot of the community appreciates. So my intention is to not limit that, but did you have?
Yeah, I just want to echo your comments. You know, as we were going through this, it was my interpretation that the services provided by STS would not be reduced by the proposal that was being brought forward to us in terms of community assistance. And I don't want to see that change, and if it does, then we need to re-review it. We've had this conversation now, and we're hearing it from the public, and so I think it's important for everybody to understand that we're going to do our best to make sure that those services are not cut. So,
Perfectly understandable.
okay.
One of the biggest things we were able to cut out of our budget would be the out-of-county boarding. You know, originally I budgeted about $700,000 for 2018. In all reality, right now it's looking at about $1.1 million. So we won't be paying that in 2019, which is, you know, pretty fantastic.
Julie, can I comment on that right
Yes.
away while you brought it up? And we had this, the part of the reason for that increase is due to, we recently found out that the jail transition from the old to the new is going to be delayed a little bit, probably until October. And so we are looking at some additional costs that are established there. I called a meeting with Lori and Julie and Stephen, and those dollars, we certainly believe are not going to be, will affect the budget in any way. That we still believe that the dollars through our overall payment plan for the project will be able to cover those dollars. So I just wanted to raise that issue that even though you're at 1.1 versus 700, those funds are covered.
Some other areas we were able to cut would have been our uniform allowance and our professional services. Starting a new facility, it required us to, fully uniform all our new employees, as well as we have to do site backgrounds on any new employees. So we had planned for about 16 of those this year. Next year we shouldn't need that many, so I was able to cut the budget in those areas.
Okay.
So, is there any other particular areas you'd like me to touch on with the budget?
Anything else? No questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anything else?
I'd just like to add that the comments we've got from employees working in this new building, it's just amazing. You appreciate being over there.
Good.
You get lots of them.
I do want to say, to have the presence of both your office and the police department for those open houses, and to have people from the community walking through it, it was, I think, a really important community reaching out, and for my kids to be able to see the deputies and the police officers that are working in our communities, and the pride that the offices had. It was a really good thing, and I appreciate the time that it took for it to stand there, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
If I can, Brian, I want to comment to you, this is also your final budget going through this process, as I understand it. I don't want to get ahead of you, but and what you did in the emergency operation planning for Clay County, I don't think there's a county in the state that has anything better than what we've done, and that was your doing. And thank you for your service in doing that.
December 30th is my last day.
I apologize. Thank you, guys. Okay, we have the 2019 budget review for the highway department. Dave, can we take your agenda addition first? You have an opening in your maintenance foreman position?
Yeah, I just got the resignation yesterday. After 4.5 years, our maintenance foreman is gonna have a change of work. So I guess I would like to advertise as quickly as I could so we can get that position filled and a new person acclimated before the winter comes.
Will there be much overlap in terms of a new person being able to
You know,
shadow?
his last day is September 14th, so I'm guessing probably not. It'd be real close if things came together really quickly, possibly, but, you know, I think we'll be able to train the person in, you know, whether there's any overlap or not. I'm not too worried about that. I think we should have time, you know, in the fall here yet to get the new person in and around, and a lot of the guys that we do have now, they know their jobs, they know their areas, so I think we should be okay on that.
Okay.
I'll move to approve, and if there's backfill, it's done.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Gross to approve the request with the backfill option,
Second.
and a second by Commissioner Haney. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. All right, your budget.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, page 44.
Thank you.
All right, I'm sure many of you are aware, but our budget is comprised of 4 main areas. 310 is maintenance, 320 is construction, 330 is administration, and 340 is shop. And I'll kind of go through each item a little bit and try to highlight some of the increases and decreases have been. In 2019, for the expenditures on the maintenance side, we've pretty much been estimating our current revenues. A lot of our revenues come from the gas tax dollars. So we just kind of estimate that same volume of money that comes in. There's town road allotments. There's municipal monies that we get 50% that we budget for. We get a little bit more than that, but we only estimate for 50% because you only get what you spend on the CASA maintenance side of things. So we have to be kind of careful there you don't over budget, but Ann is just a whiz at this, so she kind of knows how to dial it in. And then we've got our CASA regular maintenance dollars as well. As far as expenditures, we did increase our part-time labor a little bit. I think I've been a little bit short on that, and I've been lucky, somewhat lucky, because we really haven't been able to completely fill all of our spots. We would like to have an additional mower operator or 2 to help us out so that our full-time guys can be out on the patch crew. What we have now is we've been lucky enough to get 1 part-time. We have 4 guys that mow, 2 in the north half of the county and 2 in the south half, and we use 3 existing full-time employees to mow out of the 4, and we get 1 retiree that comes back. But what we'd like to do is get at least 2 part-time mower operators just to keep our normal patch crew going. We've got 6 full-time maintenance workers, and we pull 3 of them off, and we're kind of short. We can't really do much patching or spray patching or paving or anything. So, like I said, I did increase our budget a little bit for part-time labor. We have been short on that the past several years, but we haven't been able to fill all the positions either. So.
Okay.
And that includes the mower operators, the summer maintenance, just labor staff, that's our winter snowplow guys, that's our assistant sign operators, so it's incorporates probably 3 different areas within that budget, so.
When you said you're not able to fill it, are you not getting applicants?
Correct.
That
Yeah.
seems to be a trend in every department right now.
You say you're increasing part-time, is there a line item? It says salaries part-time, there's nothing in there, though. Am I on the wrong page?
No, I believe it's shown in the regular, it's included in that regular number.
Okay. Part of the salary, okay.
Correct, yep.
Thank you.
Kind of tricked on that too, you'd think it would be in that salary part-time.
Yeah, our e-time card doesn't split those out, and that's why it's all in this regular salary line item. Because they're not able to split that out.
So it'd be in that 1,044,256.
Would you be able to provide a number though for, if it
Yeah.
was asked for part-time?
Sure, yep.
And I think it is around 90,000, I believe. I got 12,500 for mowing, 17,500 for summer part-time help. That's kind of a non-CDL operator. We got 44,000 for the winter snow plowing guys, $1,000 for the assistant foreman. So when the maintenance foreman's gone, he gets $2 an hour. That's probably a little heavy, but just a little bit in there. We have $2,000 for on-call pay for the wintertime if they need to be put on call. 40,000 for overtime, and 16,000 for our sign assistant helper.
Thank you.
Questions?
The other thing that I did increase on the maintenance budget, I added another $2,000 for utilities because we've been adding these overhead lights. I mean, they're a really good thing, but they do come with a cost, so I didn't want to forget to capture that additional electricity that we'll
Right.
need for those.
Are you talking about the ones on the highways?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's,
Well spent.
money's well spent, yes. Safety.
And then I would like to increase our weed and brush line item by another $5,000. I think there's a lot of noxious weeds out there, and I think we have just enough money in there to try to maintain, but I don't know if we're making enough
I don't know
ground.
if we're making headway. I was gonna actually, Mark, that I wanted to talk to you about this. Currently, the SWCD has state matches that are available.
Yep.
And so for what the county increases, there is a state match. And this seems like something that you could collaborate with Soil and Water for.
And I think we have.
Okay, but additionally.
Okay.
Because that's offered again this year, and they
Okay.
weren't necessarily expecting it. So if we are offering it, and it's worked in the past to collaborate with you and get some match dollars on that, I think this is definitely an area that, like you said, I don't know if we're really keeping up
I
with
think we
how
could spray
bad it's
more
getting.
roads on.
So,
I think we got a responsibility on our roads to try to keep the weeds down.
Yep.
And I think I have increased, as you can see in the past.
Yep.
I think we used to be about 20, and now we got it up to 30, but.
right, I just think, especially with some of these really bad weeds that are coming up,
Sure.
it's one thing, there's always gonna be certain weeds, but if we can kinda get it in front of it.
Sure. I'll
So
meet
will
with
you
Kevin on that.
talk to Kevin on that?
You bet.
Thanks.
On the next page, unless there's any more questions on maintenance,
Questions?
it's our 10-320 budget, it's our construction. There again, we utilize our state aid allotment from last year as our starting point for our revenues, as well as our 5-year construction plan for all the county and township projects that we're going to be building. So there again, it's kind of a trending kind of a deal. And Ann does a really good job. So I basically tell her what projects we're going to be building. We do account for the $10,000 per township project that we build them. They're responsible for $20,000 on a culvert or bridge project, $10,000 for engineering and $10,000 for construction. So we do put that $10,000 that we would bill them for revenues on the design side. On the expenditure side, with some increased, or some projects coming up this year that we didn't have, or 19 that we didn't have in 18, I did increase our appraisal by $8,000. That is for our County 1 grading project north in Oakport Township. That's scheduled for 2020, but will more than likely acquire the right-of-way in 2019. I did add an additional $1,000 for increased training. We still have one new staff that's still getting fully certified by the MnDOT, grading and base and bituminous. And then we're also trying to send our assistant bridge inspector to training. It's like a 5-year process. And our current bridge inspector has been with us in excess of 25 years. So we need to make sure we start that 5-year process early so that if and when he does retire, we can backfill that position. So we've been working on that, and it's quite expensive. Some of those trainings that we send them to are 3 weeks long. But if we don't ever start that 5-year process, at least that's kind of the way we've been working it. And we also have some additional right-of-way that would complement that appraisal process on County Road 1, and we've estimated about $35,000 of increase for that line item. We were at 15,000 in 2018, and we bumped it up to 50,000. And then our Glendon project that didn't get built in 2018 will be built in 19, and you'll see some large increases there. The municipal expenditures for 2018 was budgeted for 374, and we're going to have that up to about 1.3 million. So what we've been doing in this area is we've been saving some of these dollars. We get these allotments every year, and we actually asked the state for a little bit of a variance too, because you can only save up so much money, and then pretty soon they're going to start giving you needs deductions. They're going to start withholding. So they've actually let us exceed our threshold on saving up some of that municipal state aid money. They would rather see you, and you can transfer it into your regular state aid account, but they would rather see you keep it in your municipal account so that you use it in your municipalities, because if it goes into the regular account, you can use it anywhere on the rural areas. So. Next page is on 330. It's our administration. There on the revenue side, we've just got permits and joint administration fees, so nothing really changes there. We kind of keep that pretty constant. We are going to, we bought a new copier in 2018, so in 2019 we reduced that line item. I think it was equipment over 500. We lowered that by 5,500 because we won't have a copier. And then some of the fees for toner and the maintenance they're going down, so we actually shifted where they go. So I think 10-330-6302 was increased from 100 to 1250, but then 10-330-6401 it's actually going to go down by about $700, and I expect that to go down further. We're using the way the new company is handling the copiers, it's a lot cheaper, so I would expect to see additional savings in there down the road. Other than that, not too much change in administration.
The one thing, when we had added a piece in the permits for planning and zoning for your review, there was an additional fee that we added in there. That was supposed to filter through planning and zoning and go to highway for your time. Did you account for that?
No, I did not. You're right.
We should be able to kind of look at the past couple of years and see how many that could have applied to, just to see what that.
Okay. I can work with Lori and Ann on that a little bit.
And I know with Tim being gone, I just didn't want that to fall through the cracks.
You're right. That was not accounted for.
Any other questions?
And on 10-340 shop, there again, the only revenues that we see on this line item are for joint maintenance facility reimbursements. So we just that's been pretty steady at around 75,000 per year. Changes here, utilities, which is more public service, and then our other outlying shops has trended up a little bit. So that's up about $5,000. But the one really nice thing is, and I think a lot of it has to do with our shop at the landfill, but our propane and natural gas budget line item, we've lowered that by $10,000. So we used to have a shop in Rolog and a shop in Holly, and the one in Holly was a cinder block shop with 4 huge heaters in there, and I think we spent thousands of dollars on heat on that building. So by reducing those 2 shops and moving into landfill, which we're cost sharing with solid waste, we're only paying 60% of all the bills there. The electric off-peak boilers are very efficient, and I think that's part of the big savings on the gas and propane.
I appreciate that.
We did some shifting around a little bit of some funds. So building repair and maintenance, we actually increased that one by 10,000, And, let's see, on the right page here. So that went from 73,000 to 83,000. And then equipment repair and maintenance, we lowered that by 10, so we offset those two.
Okay.
Our shop staff would like to utilize maybe more money in the repairing on buildings, less in equipment. They've been doing a lot more things in-house, so you can see the trends. We're underspending a little bit there, so we feel we can shift that 10,000 around without increasing to our budget. The same thing for radio equipment and, what was the other one? From equipment over 500, we did get all the new Armor radios this past year, which we thank you guys for helping, allowing us to do that. We don't have all the equipment. Doesn't have, and the way we set it up is we were going to share some radios, and we also have a lot of mobile radios. So some of those we'd like to maybe work on an annual basis of getting one radio a year. So we put a little bit more money in there. So if we do need to get one additional radio for a piece of equipment, we can do that. So we shifted an additional 2,000 into our radio budget. So that went from 2,000 to 4,000, and then we reduced our equipment over 500 from 10,000 down to 8,000 in order to make that up.
Why do you feel I'm going to go back to building repair and maintenance. Why do you feel we have to spend 10,000 more on that? Don't we have new buildings or?
Actually, quite a few of our buildings are not. Comstock, Ulen. I think there's things that are starting to show up on these, whether they be roofs or work on the inside of them. And what we can see how the money's being spent, we're saving a lot more money on our equipment repair. And in order to be ready for that, I guess we felt it'd be nice to have a little more flexibility on the front side of the budget.
I mean, you did limit the roll-off shop, but you still do have older highway buildings.
In the not near to future, I think we're gonna have to take a look at that Ulen shop. We've talked a little bit about it at our highway tracking committee. But there's trying to find an efficient way, whether you join another, like maybe Felton and Ulen, put them together somewhere. There's so many miles up there, and there's some of the townships that we don't do maintenance for, so there's huge gaps, and it's kind of a tricky thing to lay out, but.
Commissioner Campbell.
Yeah, one of the other things that we always look at through our highway tracking committee meeting when it comes to equipment too is its age and when we have warranties that go out and those types of things, and there is benefits by having equipment that still falls under warranty. I think in the long run, it's a cost savings for us versus the potential for, I mean, we've seen where we've had some older equipment where it just got astronomical to repair them. And so, so even though that we see some reductions in the equipment costs, then we do have a little bit of increase in our internal service fund, which that goes towards building or keeping our equipment up to date, I guess would be the best way to say it.
Yeah, I think the last 3 years we've lowered that budget by 35,000.
Mhm.
Just we're not making these big repairs and equipment. The good winters have definitely helped out on that
Right.
too. If you're not out banging around in the wintertime,
Right.
your stuff's not falling apart.
There'd be some would question how good our winter was last winter, but
Yeah,
it was long.
true, it was long. And other than that, I think fuel budget, there again, we took a look at a trend, and we took a look at trying to estimate where diesel fuel prices are, and we lowered that one by an additional 10,000 as well. Last year or this current year, we were at 310,000. We lowered that to 300,000.
Didn't sheriff office increased as well, though? I mean, that's,
It went up, but he's talking about going down.
oh, you're going down.
Mhm.
That's-
Yep. I think we're still
Diesel versus-
we're still 50,000 underneath our budget, so we felt comfortable lowering that a little bit.
I think in previous years with the highway budget, we had increased it because the gas prices were so high.
Right.
So we increased it a lot, and then all of a sudden they dropped it, so we're trying to get back down there. But in law enforcement, we kind of tempered that a little bit, that increase.
I guess that's about it. The unallocated, I guess, I know that's where we pick up the wheelage tax dollars, and we show some of that in the gravel taxes that are brought in. All in all, I think my budget's up just a hair over 0.5%, so it stayed pretty flat, which is really nice to see.
What are we at for gravel tax? I mean, that's an account.
Right, the gravel tax actually went down the collections have been going down, but we had those, all of our construction projects for roads because we issued the bond.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of big projects in a row. And now we're not doing much, and so the gravel tax has actually gone down, but the gravel tax fund has a significant amount of money in it. I don't know. off
That
the
can
top of my
only be
head.
allocated for certain things.
Correct, yeah.
You know, I think, it seems like a year ago, we were kind of talking about what we could possibly do with that gravel tax dollars. I know the county-owned property that's on the north side of Highway 10, by the demo landfill, we had talked about if we could use some of those gravel tax dollars to reclaim some of that. You know, I don't know if we want to continue that discussion, we kind of dropped it.
Sure. I would think that would be eligible.
I'm sure it would.
No, from that area.
Any questions for me?
Oh, thank you for your work on the budget, Dave.
Thanks.
Okay, item number 9 is the review the budget for probation 2019. Janelle Cheney, good morning.
And Sheriff, pretty free.
Sorry, we're running a little bit.
Oh, that's fine. Good morning. I brought handouts.
All right.
There's one.
If you look at the handout, I just started out with just kind of an overview of our staff. Kind of highlights who the county employees are, and then we have contracted staff with the state, and those primarily are agents. And so I just wanted to highlight that, and it gives kind of a breakdown of salary and benefits as far as what is billed back to the county. And that's kind of that first page breakdown. Looking at our budget, there's increases in a few areas, not too many. One of them, the major, probably one is cost of living increase. I believe the county had a cost of living increase, and then the state had a 2.25 cost of living increase. Another increase area would be our lease cost. Both our contract office and our felony office moved this past calendar year. The contract office is now located in the Family Service Center building, and that had an increase as far as our lease expense. Another increase was for the telephones. We updated to smartphones for the agents that are out in the field. So we have 3 agents that have smartphones as far as the staff within the office. Another area that I increased was training and travel. Staff are able to attend a conference, 2.5-day conference, 3-day conference, once every other year, and I felt like we were close to meeting our budgeted limit there, and felt that an increase would be appropriate. Although we do attempt to bring in most of our training here to Moorhead, we have space available and we're kind of central to some other areas, and so can bring in training as much as possible. So try to keep those costs down. So those are kind of the areas that I believe that you'll see an increase in our budget.
Board questions? We're reviewing it right now, sorry.
No, that's fine. I also did attach 2 attachments that we are looking. When we moved, we disabled and would like to reestablish our security alarm system. It's a pendant alarm system that staff can carry with them. When our staff meet with their clients, to do random drug tests, those kind of things, they leave our area. They're not around other staff at times, and so as a security measure, they had previously a little pendant alarm system that they could push, and that did signify to the local law enforcement as well as the security system company that someone was in duress, and law enforcement would respond. So we're looking at reestablishing that, and I attached the estimate to reestablish that for the county. I think that was at the 1,400. And I believe that we can cover that within our current budget under our miscellaneous items and small equipment.
Okay.
And then the other thing was the felony office, in their renovation, allowed the contract office to utilize the glass, safety glass in their lobby area. It's very difficult to hear people speaking through that, and so we're looking at an intercom system. I've attached what was in the window for the felony office, but I am still looking at maybe there's just something to enhance volume rather than a speaker system that may be of a lower cost. But again, I believe that we can handle that within our current budget.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I think that definitely makes sense for something that's needed. And I think for the clientele that you work with, this a security measure is important as well. Anything else?
I just had a question, aside from the budget, on Mark, I see Mark, on your staff, you got Mark Dipple on this STS program, which you talked about before.
Yep.
Is he still on the, is he still an employee of you? I mean, will he continue on as an employee with you, or?
He'll be employed through December of 2018. And beginning of December, we would offer him a notice that we would be terminating that program. And we are working diligently with other opportunities. State of Minnesota, we'd like him to maintain his retirement, and so we've engaged in conversations about perhaps other state employment, but it would be a different position.
Okay. So the state retirement is different than the county retirement?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. And he would like to maintain his state retirement, not lose those benefits, what he's invested. Yep.
And I thought that was part of the discussion when we talked about that. And I feel bad if we didn't follow up on the loose ends with that piece, but.
Yeah, I guess I wasn't aware of the different retirement systems, you know, I thought he could transfer over, and evidently that's not the situation, so.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, like you heard, we'd like our intentions with the STS. We all appreciate the service that is provided, and if we need to get creative and how to make sure that that's continued. We'll do so.
Yeah, and I'm not familiar with the STS state crew working outside of Clay County. I think that they've been very diligent working within the townships. I know that there have been times recently trying to move out of the juvenile center and get what we need done. Mark, and he's been creative at taking a trailer and picking up some equipment in Detroit Lakes on his own time, and then traveling here and picking up the crew. So even that has been done efficiently and effectively, but always within Clay County. I know that the DNR reached out, I want to say 2 years ago. They always send out, these are our areas that we would like if the STS crew can assist us with the mowing and the ditches and some of the lake areas and stuff like that. And I had said, we'll try, but I don't think that we can get to any of that. And they agreed to hire it out at that time. And so, and that was primarily our Mahnomen-Becker County crew at that time, because they have more of those regions. But I'm only familiar with him and the crew working within the Clay County area, the townships, and doing projects here.
Well, I think he has done a great job, and that's why there's concern, so.
Well,
That's not gonna-
if I can, Janelle, you mentioned that you're going to be continuing to work with the state regarding Mark's position, and I feel uncomfortable talking about Mark's position because he's still employed with us.
Yeah.
He's still
Sure.
employed, but if the state is interested in some, or if the state can find some way to, obviously, we don't want to see him lose his position. I'm assuming he's somewhat in a retirement age or close. I don't know. I don't know personally, but But it would seem to me that we should continue some dialogue there if the state's willing to partake in this thing.
I should probably clarify the state, when I say that, I mean that myself am looking for job postings that may be more
Okay.
local, whether, you know, they've had some, whether it's DNR or the DOT positions such as that.
That would still fit in with his, qualify him for the same retirement program versus the
Right,
counties.
right. He would just maintain being a state employee within a different position. Yeah. And I should offer, you know, I've talked to even my supervisor, different options. There are some counties that have a JPA contract with the state, and if Clay County would be eligible for that or maybe entertain that, and I'll get more information. It didn't seem that that was the route that Clay County was looking to go, because I think that this position is going to be within the facility, and the JPA position has to be very similar to what was being done with Mark's crew. But once the STS state program, if that is terminated, that's not something that can be revisited. And so that's my fear, that if we move forward, we don't have the ability to re-engage with that relationship in that program, I guess. So that was one of my concerns.
Okay.
Further comments? All right.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 10 is a budget review for the solid waste management. Good morning, Kirk.
Good morning. I think I work hard for you guys here.
Madam Chair, 65.
65 is.
What, do you want a raise or something? What's going on here?
I could use one, absolutely. Price of gas is going up, so I could definitely use one. My budget's pretty boring, because we're not doing much, as you know, out at the landfill. It's always picking up, but we're not doing much, so my budget's pretty flat.
What page are we looking at here?
I honestly don't know what your page is.
65. 65.
So, Madam Chair, essentially the solid waste budget's different than other budgets that you've seen before. It's an enterprise fund, and basically what we do is we run it as a business unit. It's self-sustaining, and it runs on its own. The funding of this enterprise fund come from various places. We received the SCORE grant from the state of Minnesota. It's about $180,000. Most of that money goes to all the local units of government to, when I'm talking about local units of government, I'm talking about cities to fund their recycling programs. We also receive funding from license fees. We have each garbage hauler in the county, they license their truck. It's $15 a truck. It's a very, very small amount of money that we receive, but we receive money from them. We also receive money from folks that want to do dispose of contaminated soil out the landfill. We charge them $200. That money is used to review the soil conditions to make sure that it's consistent with our industrial waste plan, so that is where that money goes. The bulk of the money for the enterprise fund comes from the service fee. Virtually every property in Clay County has a fee attached to it. Residential, there are $42 per parcel. Apartments and businesses are considerably larger depending on the size. But that is something that we haven't looked at for quite a while, and it provides a large portion of our funding. And perhaps the largest portion of the funding comes from the tipping fees. Service fees and the tipping fees, again, this is a snapshot for us. We don't know how much garbage we're going to take, and obviously we don't know how many more parcels we're going to have in Clay County, so it's our best guess that we can have right there. As far as the budget, as I said, the budget's pretty flat for this next year. About the only significant thing that I would direct your attention to is, and I don't have the same page as you all do, but we budgeted $3.5 million last year for professional services, and what we were going to use that for was the transfer station, which we used quite a bit as far as consulting fees on that. We had money available also from the state. And we also had money budgeted for cell construction, which we did not do last year at the landfill. We have budgeted this year $2 million, and again, what that's for is it's going to be for primarily the cell construction at the landfill. We have a RFP out right now, request for proposal out. We've sent it out to 2 companies, Burns and Mac, and they've teamed up with Nova and Wink, and we've gotten 2 proposals back, and they're basically about $1.8 million. So it's a significant project, but when we do that project, we should be good at the landfill as far as capacity for another 8 to 10 years. So that'll be long after I'm gone, so I'll feel good about that. I just wanted to touch briefly also the other change, and maybe Commissioner Campbell can talk, or Commissioner Whalen could talk to this a little bit. There could be a change as far as the tipping fee. We haven't established the tipping fee at PERM yet. It does look like it's about $123,000. Clay County share would be
$123.
$123, I'm sorry. I got ahead of myself. Sometimes I do. You know, when you get to be my age,
That's a really big increase.
yeah, when you get to be my age, you can't, you can't keep up sometimes. So it's $123 a ton, and works out to be about $295,000 on an annual basis. We'll be paying on a monthly basis. So it's we're not going to be delivering as much material over there this year, but the tipping fee goes up slightly. I'm pretty happy to report that the PERM facility is doing really, really well, so I'm pretty happy about that. We also have in the budget volunteer. That was one thing that Commissioner Campbell's been concerned about, to make sure that's in the budget, and we've included that in the budget. And Commissioner Mojo has asked to increase the fee out at the township, and we need to increase that at some point in time. Anytime I get before you guys, I like to talk about what we're doing, so I'm going to give a quick pitch about what we're going to be doing here this next year. Again, we got the cell construction out at the landfill, which is really the big project. Well, a big project. The other thing is we have this plastic bag task force that we still have. They're meeting on a regular basis. Laura Westberg is leaving, but we're going to try and find somebody else to take her place. Shannon's going to be starting a what they call a master recycling program. And essentially what that is that it's going to be a series of presentations to the public, and to learn about garbage basically. And once they do that, then they'll be volunteering up to 30 hours to help us out at the landfill, or recycling projects and things like that. We have Skippy and Chase are looking at an anaerobic digester to take care of the food waste. There seems to be quite a bit of interest in the Clay Fargo-Moorhead area on food waste. It takes about 30% of the material out at the landfill, so that would be significant if we could come up with something like that. I'm sorry?
The organics recycling that we had talked about at the planning commission for the landfill, is that something that's not being pursued by that applicant anymore?
Madam Chair, no, they went out of business, and which is really interesting to me, because they got a conditional use permit from the township, and they also got a conditional use permit from the county, and then it just went to the wayside. So that was pretty disappointing. We had a person come in yesterday, and if they can do this would be huge. They're talking about doing some mattress recycling. That would be just huge, because mattresses, as you know, are just a pain for us to try and manage out at the landfill. And then finally, one other thing we're going to put together with the students from Concordia. We met with Professor Foster yesterday, and we're going to meet, or they're going to be putting together as a class project a fix-it workshop. So they're going to be working with community leaders throughout the county to find people that are handy to help fix things, and then have people come in and try and fix their stuff instead of throwing it out in the garbage. And then finally, I think we're going to have to take, we haven't really talked about this, but I'll probably lean on the commissioners pretty hard on this at some point in time. I think we need to take another bite at that transfer station and the problem material facility. I mean, there's some significant issues we have to deal with as far as the city of Moorhead and us, but I think that's something we need to do. Getting back to the budget, again, there's really nothing there that's changed that much from last year. We're pretty flat from what we did last year, and there's no surprises that I can see that I anticipate at all. So with that, Madam Chair, I'll stand for any questions anybody may have.
Questions for Kirk?
I just have a question. You said contaminated soil that you're taking in. What do you do with contaminated soil when you get it? I mean, not that there's any to do with budget, but it just,
No, Madam Chair, Commissioner, that's a good question, I appreciate that. When I talk about contaminated soil, I'm talking primarily about contamination from petroleum.
yeah.
And so what we do with that material is just basically use it as daily cover, because the volatile organics, they basically vaporize, and that's the way that it's managed. One of the things that we're looking at, or possibly looking at, is possibly looking at doing some kind of farming on a larger scale. City of Fargo is looking to try and do something like that, and it's a significant revenue generator. And again, since we're an enterprise fund, we need to figure out if there's other revenue sources for us.
Kirk, I have a question on your existing landfill budget piece.
Mhm.
Under, it's the 6333 line item for conference registration. You have 2,500 budgeted everywhere. In 2017, the actual was 21,855. Is that a typo?
I think it might have been a typo, I honestly don't know.
I mean, the prior years you've done, 355 was your actual, and
I think, it may be actually, I don't think it's 21,000, but they did quite a bit of, one of the things that the landfill operators, and when I talk about the landfill operators, it's my 4 guys that work out at the landfill. They have to get certified every year for landfill training, so that might be a correct number, but I'll.
I just upload everything, so it might have been miscoded.
yeah,
So, what's
jumped
the
out.
full account code?
it is 62,392 and then 6333 at the end.
Oh, yeah. Like I say, I just upload everything, so it might have been miscoded in IFS. I'll take a look.
It just
Yep.
Yeah, it's,
makes a difference. Thanks.
He went to Hawaii for a conference.
Yeah, I haven't been.
Even so, that
I get to go to, Madam Chair, I get to go to Slayton, that's where I go, for
Slayton.
conferences.
would be a couple trips down.
Where?
Any other
Hey,
questions?
Slayton,
I just want to follow up.
Jamaica?
Slayton.
Just want to follow up if I could on the proposed increase, and it'll go into a little bit of my committee report on the Budget Committee for Prairie Lakes. And the proposal is to move forward going from $118 per ton to $123 per ton tipping fee for Clay County solid waste based on the tons that we have to pay over and above exchange. I believe it's 2,800 now based on.
It's about 2,400.
Okay, well, I'd calculated 28, and it might be, I might be off a little bit there, and that's based on the 56,000 capacity anticipated for that facility for 2019. And at 2,800, we'd be looking at about an additional 14,000 through Kirk's budget, and it's very manageable. But again, all of those tons still reduce what's going into our landfill and extend the life of our landfill, so it's still money worthwhile, so.
Madam Chair, Commissioner, I agree, I mean, it's a good investment, it seems like a significant amount, but it's a small investment, it's very positive.
Okay. Anything else? All right, thank you, Kirk.
I thank you.
Our next item, moving into our committee reports, Commissioner Campbell.
Okay, on the last Tuesday, the 14th, we had a PIC committee meeting, and the sole purpose of that meeting that particular day was discussion on the future of the planning commission and, or planning and zoning, excuse me. Yeah, planning and zoning, excuse me. And, I think we're making some progress. We've asked our county administrator and our legal team and our HR to get some more information for us, and we should be coming up with a plan shortly to propose. Then my other meeting last week was as I just mentioned, was the Budget Committee meeting for Prairie Lake Solid Waste. And that was pretty much to go over what we just discussed during Kirk with his budget. Then yesterday we had in the morning we started off with a little finance recap committee regarding the correctional facility, the small delay that's going to happen there and how we would fund the additional cost of out-of-home, or out-of-county placement, and we've got that all figured out. Then we had our juvenile construction meeting, was at 11, and all this seems to be going smoothly there, but they did find one hiccup, and that's as they were doing the foundation work for the new addition piece, they found remnants of an underground tunnel that nobody knew about, and apparently it went to the old hospital that existed on 9th Street from back in the early 50s. And so they're anticipating potentially maybe $17,000 to $20,000 additional there. Fortunately, we have that built in so far into our contingency fund, so, but it seems to be going quickly on that project. Anytime you do a remodeling project, it's a little bit more intense. And then we had our jail construction meeting in the afternoon. We had just a few little things regarding the LEC. They're still doing some, little maintenance issues there. And we had some discussion of the jail project. We're looking at the 27th of September is the date that Department of Corrections is coming in to do their inspection of the facility. The training, I think they're starting on September 9th with their new employees and new existing employees. And I did not mention yesterday, Stephen, but if we can get a hold of Joe or whoever, but the Minnesota Steam Threshers would like to have 2 of the old jail doors with keys they're looking at doing a project out there for the steam threshers, and they were, as we go and tear down the old facility, if we can make arrangements to accommodate their wishes, that would be great.
Nick is aware of that.
Okay, all right. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Meany.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. On Wednesday, I attended the public informational event on the Moorhead Downtown Initiative at the MCOMB Center. Many of those proposals and things we've all seen before, but it was nice to see them all in one place, and there's a good turnout of politicians at least. On Thursday, I attended the policy board meeting in the Metropolitan Council of Governments, and specific to Moorhead and Clay County, we approved the Moorhead ADA transition plan for the next 30 years in the infrastructure of Moorhead to ensure that pedestrian facilities are accessible to all individuals over the next 30 years. That includes sidewalks, curb ramps, traffic control signals, public parking lots, and at-grade pedestrian railroad crossings. The plan also evaluates access to transit facilities, including transit stops, shelters, and portions of the pedestrian network that approach these locations. And then we also approved the consultant selection of the US 10/75 project, where they're going to, the Department of Transportation is going to designate the 11th Street corridor rather than the 8th Street corridor that is currently in effect, as it ties into the proposed 11th Street underpass construction. And so MetroCog approved hiring of SRF Consulting Group for that consultation service. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Commissioner Gross?
Wednesday, the Historical Society, we met there, and they're doing real good. They're having a good year. They're ahead of last year and stuff, so it's coming out to be a good year for them. That was pretty much the gist of it, as far as how they're doing. Thursday, I was in Canvas Committee for the election results. And other than that, those were my 2 meetings this week. And other than that, I just want to bring up again, which I brought up last week, was I really think we should apply for the Minnesota counties an award for our construction of I think it would qualify for one of the rewards as far as things that we have done. I don't know who could, I don't know how they nominated
Are you
for
talking about the mental health piece?
all of it. You know,
Well-
there was two different committees involved in the Grant and Kevin were involved in the building. You and I were involved in the behavioral health. I don't know if if it's two different things or it was just one thing, but I would like to see that we could be, at least put in a request to nominate us for an award for that.
No, I had talked with Steve specifically about the behavioral health unit in terms of presenting at AMC, because I felt like we kind of made a lot of headway, and in talking with your peers, they didn't quite feel like they were ready in terms of how much they've actually had people in that, but I think in terms of the project as a whole, that probably is something that could be applied for, I think.
I just think, I mean, when I look at what some other counties do receive rewards on, I think it's just a great accomplishment that our county has done, and we should be recognized for it.
Are you a good writer?
No, I'm not. That's why I'm asking Steve to do it. No, or do we have somebody to find out what has to be done, I guess, is what I'm asking, and then let's do it.
Sure, I can look into that.
Okay.
General consensus for that, this board?
Good night,
All right,
yeah.
I think we're in agreement that that's something we'd like to pursue.
All right.
Thank you. Okay, is that?
Yeah, excuse me, yes, I'm done.
Thank you, Commissioner Gross. Commissioner Whalen?
Let's see, I had the Prairie Lakes meeting and construction meetings for the jail and detention center, and they've already been discussed. I had a Clay Seniors meeting last week in Glendon, and went over lots of things that are going on with seniors in the county. A couple things were mentioned. The United Way A Day of Caring is on October 11th, which I think is a real beneficial thing for a lot of seniors in our county, where people volunteer to help seniors with small projects that they're not able to do for themselves. So again, that's October 11th, and you can contact United Way if you're interested in volunteering for that. And then we had a lot of discussion on respite care program that's available to help people that are caregivers, and AmeriCorps has a program where they pay people to be respite caregivers. So, and that was it for me.
I have one more item I was gonna, as long as Lori's here, probably not the time to bring it up or whatever, but somewhere along in our budget talks, I'd like to find out how much more, I mean, I hear a lot of their taxes went up, everybody's taxes went up, property taxes went up. How much is that gonna affect our budget? Is that gonna bring in a lot more money this coming year, next year, or?
Well, we take in what we levy. So whatever we levy, and even if people's values go up, that doesn't affect what we take in. Because what happens is you tell me what to levy, I spread it across the tax base. So
That'll be
if,
spread out.
yeah, so.
Right. If I can, frankly, I think what happens there is if everybody's values went up the same, you typically wouldn't see any change in their property tax. It's what happens is when there's a shift where one portion of the county's values goes up and another's goes down, or the ag values go up, so that's what impacts.
That's true, I guess. So it could affect our levy, though. I mean, wouldn't our?
No.
No.
It's not
Our levy is what we elect to spend in terms of total dollars. And then it's spread out based on value.
So if you tell me to levy $30 million, that's what we levy. So if everybody's value goes up, that doesn't mean we get more money. We still get the $30 million.
It just
Correct.
shifts to different.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That's exactly it.
Okay. Follow-ups?
Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Whalen? Okay, thank you. Last week I also attended the PIC committee meeting, and I think we've got some good discussion that we're gonna follow up with this afternoon, or after this meeting, in terms of what the office of the planning and zoning will look like. I will note that I've been very pleased in our contract with Homeward Planning, and Ben Olison's doing a really great job. I've not heard any complaints, I've only heard good things, so that's that's a positive move. I also attended the election board canvassing last week. Lori, thank you for all that you do to make those elections work, and I know that you put a late night in, and I think I've heard that we had a fairly good turnout in terms of the
We had
primary.
more than double 4 years ago.
That's great. That's really great. So thank you for all the work that your office does for that. Yesterday, I went to MetroCog to meet with the director and administrative secretary on just some follow-up items that needed signed from the previous meeting. And then this evening, we have a planning and zoning meeting, and we don't have any public hearings, but the one thing on the agenda is to have a discussion in regards to the renewable energy ordinance that we talked about, I'd say a year ago. We put a subcommittee together to review the ordinance wordage that we have as a proposal. And the reason we're doing this is a lot of other counties in the state have seen these large solar farms go up and didn't necessarily have wording in their ordinance to go by, and so they kind of piecemealed together their permits, and we're finding some inconsistencies. And so the reason Clay County wanted to do it before any of these come is that we have a solid framework to go by. And so the proposal tonight is to see if we want to continue the discussion to have an open hearing for these wind generators, solar farms, that kind of thing. And so I wanted to get your input before the meeting tonight to see if this is something that we want to continue talking about. I don't see any harm in making sure we have an existing framework, because I have heard some rumblings that there was a possible wind farm that wanted to go in different areas, and because we didn't have this, they kind of left it as is. So, obviously,
It needs to be pursued.
Sure.
Okay, all right. Well, that concludes my reports. Steve?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, on Tuesday, again, we also attended the PIC meeting. I think that's been covered in detail. We've continued a lot with Lori in working on our budget information, so we spent a great deal of time last week doing that. We had Central Administration meeting on Wednesday. On Thursday, I participated in the new County Administrator cohort in Little Falls. I also participated in a number of construction meetings, both for the law enforcement, jail, and correction center and the juvenile center. On Friday, I attended the FM Diversion Administrative Advisory Staff meeting. And so that concludes my report.
Okay. Anything else? Just a question, I know we're contracted with the planning and zoning, will we have a budget presentation on that?
Yes, I think we're scheduled to, by the end of the month. Is that correct? By the next board meeting? Planning and zoning? On our presentation?
Yes, I think that is.
Okay.
Okay, all right, thank you. Anything else? All right, if not, we're adjourned.